داره میره یواش یواش دیگه. از اینجا بعد آماده باشیم که لایو دیده بشیم.
Sure.
Welcome to everyone who is joining us this afternoon for another Persia webinar. We're just preparing to join everyone who has been in our waiting room and ready to start. So we're grateful for your presence here with us, and we thank you for being patient while we get the page started. So this afternoon, as you know, I have the pleasure of welcoming a wonderful presenter on behalf of Persia Educational Foundation. I'm the executive of the foundation. My name is Tahira Danesh. And I'm grateful to a number of colleagues who have agreed to appear in our webinars over the past few months. Another wonderful opportunity that we have had over the past few months is to present new possibilities, opportunities for the younger generation who are pursuing their education, Iranians, whether in Iran or here in the UK or elsewhere, who are exploring less traveled paths of service to humanity and careers that increase prosperity, both for our motherland, Iran, and the global community. So this afternoon, we have the unique opportunity of being in the presence of a man who has pioneered a new way of exploring his career and advancing culture. Mr. Ali Mashayekhi is an Iranian-Canadian film producer who has been active in the film industry for a number of years. He moved to Canada with his family in the 1980s and grew up pursuing a career in the medical field, much like many of those who are of Iranian descent. However, during his second year at the University of Toronto, he decided that he wanted to switch to film production. And this was something that perhaps went against his family's requirements. However, we have no doubt that they're very happy with the success that he has experienced ever since. He is the executive director of a pioneering organization called Ethnically Diverse Artists Foundation. This is a Canadian nonprofit. It is a charitable organization that was founded by him and Mena Massoud, who is the star of the film Aladdin, that is better known with a superstar known as Mr. Will Smith. So the work that he's been carrying out with Mena Massoud has opened the way for more inclusivity and diversity in the arts, including the film industry. Mr. Mashayekhi has produced a number of award-winning films. He's going to tell us a bit about it. And this year, in spring of 2021, he has begun production of a short story. This is a first ever effort to bring a short story written by acclaimed author Stephen King, a rendition of it in Persian language, starring some of the most outstanding Iranian, British, Iranian-Canadian, and Iranian-American stars in our community. So the pioneering work that Mr. Mashayekhi is doing is really paving the way for many younger Iranians to do amazing things and to make our community proud. So without further ado, I'm delighted to welcome Ali Mashayekhi. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you very much for that perfect introduction. You could have spoken the whole time and I would sit here and listen to it. That sounded amazing. I feel great about myself. I'm pumped, I'm ready. But thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be doing this webinar with you and the Persia Institute. I hope that in the next few minutes, I can contribute a little bit to the discourse and the dialogue of Iranian filmmakers and how that process basically comes to fruition with our background being firmly entrenched in the sciences and education. When some of us who decide to go down the entertainment route, initially we face some challenges, and if you're focused and you have a dream, generally speaking, you can overcome all obstacles. So hopefully we can inspire along the way a little bit as well too. But thank you for having me.
Of course. Whatever I mentioned during the introduction was no exaggeration at all, and it was just a brief about you. Your full biography, of course, has been available on our website, will remain available for those who are interested. And on social media, you've been tagged. So if anyone is willing to support or inquire about your work, that possibility is there, both on Persia website at www.persia.education, as well as our social media, particularly LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. So now let's start consulting with you and learning more about your amazing work. Let's start with some of the things that you have been really creating, perhaps, which is opportunities. And during our earlier conversations, you referred to many opportunities now emerging in the post-pandemic market in the film industry. Would you like to start by telling us about some of these opportunities that maybe younger Iranians could explore?
Sure. In the past couple of years, Hollywood decided to do a systemic change in the process of determining which content they wanted to actually develop and create. And this has been brewing for several years, but now on the forefront are ethnically diverse artists. So basically, anyone who looks like me now has a higher chance of getting their content made internationally, specifically in Hollywood as well. This is now sort of spread across all mediums, in television and film, in even news reporting. In the industry as a whole is welcoming people who sound different, who look different, who talk different, have different ideas. And this is wonderful for filmmakers of any age from anywhere around the world, but specifically Iranians. Because previously, one of the sort of stigmas that our culture has created is that this is not a job that you can be successful at. Now, in some cases, yes, we can talk about how difficult it is, but the industry also wasn't very welcoming to minorities, from content creation to starring in specific roles. The past couple of years, that has changed. And most of the bigger platforms like Netflix and Hulu and Amazon, they all now have mandated quotas to make sure that there is diverse content on their screens and on their streaming platforms. This basically simply just translates into more opportunity. So more than ever, if you have an idea, more than ever, if you have a dream of being a filmmaker or an actor, the opportunities are there for you to take advantage of. Where a few years ago, it was still an uphill battle. Now it's sort of, the door is open and they're welcoming everyone. So if anybody's been thinking of getting into it, this is the perfect time to get into film and television at any medium. Whatever your interest lies, the doors are essentially open. Now, we think this is a change and that it's going to become the new normal, but we don't know. So now is the time to take advantage of it, no procrastination. And then also within the context of diversity, there are a lot of government institutions all around the world, in the UK, definitely, United States, Canada, where you can get additional funding for your content. Now that funding goes hand in hand with the diversity mandate. So the more ideas you have and the more proactive you are, the more opportunities exist today that didn't before. And one of the best starting places for all the UK viewers is Raindance. The Raindance Institute is a film festival and soon to be an actual university as well too. They're a total nonprofit, and their entire mandate is to nurture and develop independent filmmakers. And filmmakers is a broad term. I mean, if you wanted to create television scripts, or you wanted to even create music for television and film, anything that's in the creative sort of sphere, they welcome you, and they nourish it, and they're designed to actually help the up and coming new filmmaker. Everybody, when you start off, you're an independent filmmaker. Nobody immediately becomes Hollywood right out of the gate. So this is a hub that provides the key elements necessary to understand the industry. I highly encourage anyone who is genuinely interested in getting into film to just go to Raindance, Google them, and start from that base. They will be able to guide you through the entire process and sort of show you the reality of the film industry from a grassroots standpoint, which is absolutely crucial in decision making on whether you want to pursue this as a career or you want to actually treat it as a hobby, which is entirely fine as well too if you have the time to put into it. But word to the wise, it is a 7-day-a-week, 24-hour career once you get into it. There's no escaping it.
Wonderful. And what is your role in Raindance? You've been affiliated with them for some time, as I understand.
Yes. So just a really, really quick story. The creator of Raindance, the founder of Raindance, was supposed to do a film speech in Toronto. He was flying in from New York, and he was supposed to come to Toronto about 6 years ago. He got snowed in. The Toronto head of Raindance, because Raindance has multiple locations around the world, happened to know me, got on the phone, and she said, Ali, can you fill in for Elliot Grove, the founder of Raindance, and also the founder of BIFAs, the British Independent Film Awards? And I was like, there's no way I can be I can't do this. I'm not going to do it justice. She was very insistent for me to do it. I sat in for him and gave a 3-hour speech about filmmaking. I didn't realize Elliot was sitting in the airport watching it live on his screen. He liked the way that I did that class. So ever since then, I've been teaching the business of marketing for Raindance internationally and domestically. And then occasionally I will teach the ethics of filmmaking as well to a very, very specific group of people who are focused on more so a long-term career trajectory. So we help them understand how to navigate the industry. And that's how I'm affiliated with Raindance.
Well, that sounds fantastic, both in terms of a wonderful coincidence that has obviously been well deserved, and shoes have been filled beautifully that you have continued this long-term association with them. And the topics that you mentioned that you teach are also incredibly important. They're not necessarily just about artistic technique, but rather two of the more fundamental dynamics that are involved in making a successful career in the film industry. Are these courses available only to the students that register through this organization, or do you offer them to Iranian students elsewhere?
The specific courses I teach and that Raindance provides, they're available to Raindance members. I think it's £100 a year. Anybody internationally can get a membership. That's not a it's an affordable rate for what you get. And then some classes are free and some you have to pay a premium on. I personally my door is metaphorically open always to anybody who wants any advice on filmmaking. I especially welcome my Iranian friends, because I do want them to be successful, and anything I can do on a personal level to give advice and also guide them to very specific classes or organizations that focus on their needs, I'm happy to do, and I can facilitate it either way for them.
Well, your spirit of service and philanthropy certainly came through our earlier exchanges as we prepared for this webinar, and we're very grateful to you for taking the time to do this afternoon. Let's now maybe transition from the opportunities, some of the opportunities you have identified that are very important and timely, and perhaps something that require concerted effort on the part of those who want to break into this industry to do so immediately. Could you also share with us some of your experiences in terms of the challenges that might lie ahead, so that we can best prepare ourselves to tackle these and increase chances of success in the film industry?
Absolutely. I will sort of give a side note that if you are a motivated person, if you can self-motivate and you have a particular resistance to rejection, you don't take it personally, then you have the prerequisite to at least give yourself a chance of succeeding. If you don't have those two character traits and are not willing to develop them in you, this is a very, very, very difficult industry. And it's difficult for lots of different reasons. For me personally, the difficulty started with when my family was not supportive of me getting into film. My dad was a biology professor in Iran. My mom was a biology teacher. My path was medicine, nothing else. There was no alternatives. So when I decided to deviate from that path that was probably built, 20 years before I actually went into university, I got faced with my first challenge, which wasn't just not having family support. And this is a hard enough industry. You need some level of support. You either need emotional support, you need, sometimes financial support to be able to weather the storm. And when you don't have the support, that's a challenge. And in my case, when I had a family that said, look, not only we're not going to support you, so get that out of your head, we're also going to create obstacles for you so that you don't become successful and then you go back to medicine. Well, I had the personality of just anything in front of me is a challenge, I take it on. So I was self-motivated and I had thick skin. So I was able to sort of coexist for about 5 or 6 years with them being very, very strongly opposed to what I was doing until I wore them out. So basically at some point they gave up, right? Because they couldn't stop. And unfortunately, it takes about, like, from a producing standpoint, it takes about, I would say, about 5 to 8 years to actually go from learning and losing money and getting rejected to some level of stability, right? So if I could say you're in the black probably after about 5 to 8 years, you're not even in the green yet. Like, you haven't really made any profits. You're just addressing all the debt you created. And then after, like, you get closer to the 10-year mark, then things change. But when they change very, very, very quickly. So I went from a nightmare situation for the first few years to something I could sort of like tolerate for the next few years. And then it became really nice. And the money came, as you had mentioned, the awards started coming in for the films that I was doing, because I learned the hard way, right? I didn't go to school for it. I went to school for medicine. I had no point of reference. It was just trial and error for the first, few years. But as long as you're motivated and as long as you focus, you have a chance. And it's very, very easy to quit. On so many times in my life, I just wanted to quit. The thing is, one of the reasons I didn't quit, and this is goes against the advice that I got early on, which was like, do film on the side, but get your degree, become a doctor, do this, and then have that backup, have that fallback plan, and then do the film thing. Well, I promise anybody listening here right now, if I was a doctor, if I'd reached that level, at times that I wanted to give up, I would have, and I would have been a doctor then. I wouldn't have continued doing this because that existed. I didn't have a safety net. So for me, I went against everything and I just went full speed ahead. And then on the days that you wake up and you're like, I can't do this, you're like, well, what are you going to do? There's nothing else to do other than keep trying to make it happen, right? So self-motivation and having thick skin. But, mostly the challenge in the context of an Iranian culture comes from within, unfortunately. That's the primary thing. And then the secondary thing, which I addressed earlier, was that the film industry was not ready for diversity up to about a few years ago. And then that exploded. And with that explosion, opportunities started coming up really, really quick. So you can definitely take advantage of that as far as dealing with your family. That's the one question that I could never sort of like to my own satisfaction resolve, which is why Mena and I started the EDA Foundation for that exact same purpose. He's an Egyptian boy. His family wanted him to get into medicine. He had the exact identical same path as me, as I'm sure a ton of Middle Easterners, ton of Iranians, they have the exact same origin story of parents are against it, now what? So when him and I sort of reached a point in our career where we were sustaining ourselves, we ourselves didn't need support, we created the EDA Foundation to actually create that exact solution for that problem, which was getting in front of the parents and talking to them. And the EDA basically supports any diverse artist in Canada for the time being, but we're going to expand internationally, who wants to get into the entertainment industry. And we support them financially, so that if they are going to school and they're worried about, doing acting classes or music classes or headshots, we cover those expenses for them so they could finish and focus on school. Because I'm not anti-education, I'm for education. I just want people doing the things that they're passionate about. So if they're in the middle of school, they should finish it. So we do support them financially. And then we also connect them to the right industry people. We don't want anybody wasting time through trial and error. If the EDA existed for me, 15 years ago when I really started, I would have saved thousands of dollars, many, many years, many, many late nights doing stuff that made my eyes sort of like go into my skull. I didn't have anybody teaching me or guiding me. So the EDA will just sort of create a plan for the people that we support to make sure that they're going down the right direction and the fastest, healthiest direction. And then thirdly, we will actually talk to the parents on behalf of the artists, and we will explain our own origin story so they understand that you can be successful if you are self-motivated and you have a passion for it. And if you are, then the EDA will support you, and we will get in between, you and the parents and try to make sure that at the very least you don't get any opposition from them. We're not going to convert everybody to become your number one fan and support you, but not having internal opposition at home makes the playing field more even, because most other cultures actually are fairly supportive of their children getting into whatever they want to get into. So they don't have that obstacle right out of the gate. We do as a community and as a culture. So the EDA tries to alleviate that pressure as well.
That's wonderful. One of the things that here in the UK is increasingly attracting attention is inspired by the work of a British figure in the world of education who left us recently, Sir Ken Robinson, who talks about the importance of allowing the gifts that every individual has in them to emerge, because these are conditions and predicaments that enable civilization to go on, because the newer generation are able to address newer challenges in ways that the former generation are completely incapable of. So this is something that perhaps more and more parents are paying attention to. It is being emphasized in the education system here in the UK. And so it's wonderful to hear it echoed across the ocean through the work that you're doing in Canada. Without a doubt, you probably know about some of the other figures in the film industry who are advancing education in this area. For instance, Edutopia, that was inaugurated by George Lucas, which is very much focused on advancing education, but allowing arts and performing arts and the entertainment industry to be part of that process, not just a focus on the sciences. Have you had any sort of synergy with those organizations? Is there anything that you have come across from those in your personal journey that you would like to share with us?
Well, when we started the EDA Foundation, we started it in 2019, July of 2019. And this little thing called the pandemic happened about 8 months later, which completely derailed every plan we had. Everything that we wanted to do on a grand scale got scaled down to a tiny, tiny portion of what it was supposed to be. So unfortunately, we did not get to do any significant collaborations like we intended to do. What we thought at that point was, we need to make sure we can just help out anybody that we can reach right now. Just keep our heads above water. Obviously, this is not the type of charity that people donate to easily. I could list like 30 other charitable causes people should give their money to first before they give it to, ethnically diverse artists who want to make movies. So it was hard to fundraise. It was hard to just sort of like keep ourselves going. Mena, myself, and only one other volunteer run the charity. We don't collect any salary. It's completely volunteer based. So it was difficult. And we just thought in that case, put aside all these dreams of bigger sort of events and organizations and collaborations, and just not drown and let COVID sort of come and go. Everything that you mentioned is now part of the 2022 plan. and we'll get to that hopefully without COVID being an obstacle. But we just basically right now focused on the students and nothing else, because we knew that we were not going to be able to do significant fundraising during COVID, understandably. And we wanted to make sure that whatever money we had in the war chest was going to actually delivering results. So we sponsored 5 individuals in 2020. And this year we just announced the 5 that we sponsored. So we are now basically sponsoring 10 students. And then in 2022, we'll have an expansion plan. Hopefully it'll coincide with some other good news coming out of Mena's camp, but we'll leave that to a different webinar.
Wonderful. Would you like to tell us about the process of application for these individuals that you sponsor through your organization?
Sure. So we have an online portal. It opens for about a month, twice a year. We just want to hear from individuals why they need help, what their goals are, what their resume looks like, what obstacles are ahead of them, what are their dreams and goals. So it sounds simple, and it is if you can articulate it. And then we will essentially reach out to every single one of them one by one. It takes a long time. That's why the portal's open for a month and then it takes 6 months. And we'll reach out to them, and one of our volunteers will actually have a preliminary interview to get a sense of where they are in their career. We are not designed to help somebody who's just starting out. We are designed to help somebody who's struggling. So they have to have gone through a process already of not being able to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish. And this also gives them a sort of a minimum educational base as far as what the industry is about. And then we come in and then we identify what those issues are. And we only support people that we genuinely can help. If we feel like we can't help them, we don't give them that sense of comfort by supporting them, because then they're just sort of waiting around for stuff that's not going to actually happen. So that's why we do it. So our volunteer will do one interview. Mena will then do a secondary one, and then I'll come in and do a final one, reduce the list down to about 10, and then Mena will then pick the final 5 out of that mix. So the portal opens next time in October. It is still for Canadian residents only, but hopefully by next year, the United States and the UK residents can also apply.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you so much. Do you want to share with us a little bit more? You referred to your personal journey a bit about the beginnings, sort of, shifting from medicine to the film industry, your struggles with your family. Now, of course, the support of your family. So along the lines of that transformation, do you want to share with us some of the projects that for you were of greater significance, things you've done that you really are proud of, and some of the awards that you have won, some of the accolades you have won, as well as some of the challenges you have come that maybe no one else noticed, but for you were sort of, milestones in your growth and development that may be of assistance to other young people who are listening to you right now?
Sure. So I will sort of give it in a slightly fragmented way. Basically, the initial challenge was when you don't have a background in film, starting a business or even starting a hobby that you don't really know anything about, you just think you like it. So quickly I realized that without proper education in film, which there was no way I was going to be able to not go to medical school and then go to film school and live in the same house as my family. I would have been on the streets. So there was really no option of actually going to film school. So what I did was I found 4 other people that I created a small community of filmmakers with, like-minded people who weren't studying film. So actually one of them was studying economy. The other one was studying marketing. The other 2 were studying different things. But the point is we created a little club and we shot our first film. We didn't know what we were doing. And then we sold that film to family and friends at $50 a DVD in 2004. Okay. And we forced it. We're like, please buy this, $50. It's not worth it, but here's the promise. The next one will be better. So then we collected $8,000 and then we shot the next film, not knowing what we were doing, but slightly more knowledgeable on the subject. And then we sold that one, sold it to family and friends for $100 a DVD. But guess what? This one sold so much easier because it was more expensive, because they were able to compare the first one being so horrible and this one being significantly better. Believe it or not, we did this 5 more times and got to $500 a DVD. So for my last film, we actually raised $80,000 in 2007. And then we shot it in this exact same formula. But we got told by family and friends, this is it. Like, win an Oscar, don't win an Oscar, don't come to us and sell another DVD for $1,000. However, the progression of work was evident. We got better, and that's, if you think about it, that was my film school for 4 years, basically. I did it on my own, and that's how we got to where we did. And now that film, I was able to actually sell. So we sold the film and got some seed money that we were able to start a production company with, which is called Landed Entertainments. And we created Landed Entertainments officially as a company in 2008. And even after that, coming into the industry, ready to go at 2008, 2009, and then you have like the economy starting to crash. It was challenges again, because you constantly had to reset, right? You constantly faced obstacles. If you made a good film and you thought it was fantastic, it didn't sell at the right amount, then you're back again and you have to make a lower budget film, right? But going back to what I said, self-motivation and tough skin, right? You need these two things to be able to endure. And then the film started actually looking really, really good. And then in believe it or not, I didn't win my first award until 2016. So in 2016, I won Best Canadian Comedy at the Canadian Comedy Awards. And it was fantastic. It put us right on the map as Canadian comedy content creators, and we were able to get a lot of meetings of it as a result of it. And then since 2016, every year I tend to win a couple of awards. Now, getting into festivals used to be a big deal, but now it's like, I didn't win an award, this was a failure. Like, you're only into festivals now for awards, but you win a couple. I've won one that I'm really, really actually proud of. I won Best Short Film at the Inside Out LGBTQ Toronto Film Festival, which is the third biggest LGBTQ festival in the world. And I won Best Short Film for that on a very, very emotionally driven story. And so over the years, you start experimenting with different genres. I'm straight, but we told a gay story, and it did really, really well with a team of straight and gay artists. And then that door in that community has now opened, and I'm working more in the LGBT community. And we did a horror film that won Best Music, believe it or not. And it's like, didn't win Best Producer, Writer, Actor, Director, Best One Score. It just opened up the world of music for us, right? So there's so many different doors that open once you get into it. Once the snowball effect starts and the awards start coming in, and you get connected to these different communities, you're able to build relationships. I mean, I used to pre-COVID attend about 5 or 6 festivals annually, in Rain Dance in London being one of them. And then you're building these relationships with like Iranian Australians who happen to be there, Iranian French who happen to be there, who speak barely no English and like just enough Farsi that we could communicate, because but they speak fluent French, and I don't. And it's just, it's the people in this community they all share the same origin story, which is obstacles and challenges, lots of hard work, and then here we are. And there's this instant kinship between us that nobody else really understands. When we look at each other, we can tell. I can look in them in the eyes. I know this dude's been working at this for like 25 years, and he didn't have no help the same way I didn't. And there is this sort of instant chemistry, and not just within the Iranian community, of course, as a whole in the Asian, Middle Eastern sort of communities. But for me, it's a special thing. And over the years, festivals and relationships, and then, being in competition for awards changes things significantly. And you find yourself one day realizing that you have a career on your hand, and you owe it all to like the first like 7 or 8 years of eating cheese pizza and bottles of water, and now you can just sort of like do whatever you want with your life. I'll just say this: I have 2 boys under the age of 4, and you know, this is maybe my generation speaking, but if they wanted to get into film, I would totally back them. If they had the wiring for it, if they had the personality for it, I would totally be backing them. And this is a generational issue right now. You know, the next generation is not going to have this same outlook on the entertainment industry. The previous generation predominantly does, not everyone, you know, not everyone, but predominantly does. But the next generation, they're going to be able to do whatever they want. And if you follow Iranian celebrities, there is a crop of them coming up right now that you don't really know their names. They're not like the marquee names of Shohreh and Maz and you know, Omid and Navid, but they're coming up, and in the next 5 years they're going to blow up, and they're going to take Hollywood by storm. There is hundreds of them in every department coming up, and it's really an exciting time to network and collaborate and just do what you really are passionate about, and you'll be successful at it.
That's absolutely true. Over the past 20 years in particular, there's been an explosion in the Iranian community, in Iran as well, in terms of the arts and performing arts. So the kind of underground music that's coming out of the Iranian youth community, the films, the fashion, the modeling, as you mentioned, not just in acting in front of the camera, in every genre. We have so many young Iranians who are emerging with exceptional talent. So the challenges that the Iranian community have been facing, perhaps in terms of our families' structure and really born out of goodwill and nothing else, but the pressures, the tensions that have existed there, both culturally and in the family institutions, as well as the societal pressures that Iranians have faced over the past 40 years or so in Iran, have given birth to a new generation of Iranian artists whose creativity is going to perhaps headline and redefine everything in the decades to come. So your webinar is incredibly timely, and your foundation is incredibly timely in terms of pushing these boundaries forward and enabling young Iranians to emerge in these different fields as soon as possible and as exceptionally as possible. So with that in mind now, would you like to tell us a bit about this exciting film that you're about to make based on a short story by Stephen King?
Yes. So about 2 years ago, pre-COVID, we were, me and my brother-in-law, who's also a successful writer, actually, believe it or not, how we found each other, who knows? We were at an Iranian wedding, and we came home 3 a.m, you know, getting ready to go to bed, and we saw on Reddit that Stephen King was putting up a few of his short stories for creative auction. So you submit a reason why you should get rights to that story. I went to bed because I was tired, but my brother-in-law decided to put in 15 minutes more, and he typed it up and he submitted it, and we ended up getting the rights to one of his more famous stories called The Doctor's Case, which is written about Sherlock Holmes and Watson. And it's the first ever sort of fictitious story that he's told, a story about fictitious characters that he's written. And it's a story where Watson solves the mystery instead of Sherlock. So our angle was, which was very unique, is that we were going to do this entire thing in Farsi. And that appealed to the Stephen King estate instantly. By the time we woke up late that morning, we already had the contract counter executed by them. So we were good to go. And I thought to myself, you know, we got to do this right. So it's going to have to be, you know, the who's who of the Iranian community in the industry. So we started reaching out to, I had a couple of friends, and then who were in the industry. You know, Shiva Nagar, I've known her for about 8 or 9 years. We started working together years ago. So with her help, we reached out to Navid Negahban. And then when Navid and Shiva were locked in, then we reached out to Maz Jobrani, and then Tara Grammy, and a couple of other names that we're still working on that we haven't announced yet. But Dr. Danish knows, but the public doesn't know yet. And we thought, and everybody was receptive. I mean, this was something that they all were like, oh my God, this is a great opportunity. We want to do it. And this is a non-for-profit exhibition film. So it's not, there's no money really involved in it. We can't monetize it. It's just to share the artwork and the culture, and for these actors to be in a Stephen King film, that's a pretty cool opportunity. To then be able to do it in Farsi, it's a cool and challenging opportunity. And then to be able to showcase it, in London and Paris and in LA, Toronto, all the sort of key Iranian hubs, it's a sense of pride. It's like we all want to do it. We all want to be those guys who brought this to life. And then obviously COVID hit and we had to press the pause button for a few months, over a year, but we're back at it now and we're excited to get started on shooting this. We have the blessing from the Stephen King estate, so they're excited to see it. And we want to make our fellow artists proud, and we want to make our fellow Iranians proud. And I think this would be a good project to bring attention to both communities simultaneously. And we're looking forward to sharing it at some capacity at the Persia Educational Foundation. So excited for that as well.
We're very excited too, and you can be sure that I'm personally more than committed, and I think the foundation is very happy also to support anything we can to present this first effort to the Iranian global community, as well as our sister organizations. So we will do everything we can to ensure that this goes forward and succeeds in every way. And thank you for the initiative, both by yourself, even though you were sleeping, and your brother-in-law. So your intention was there to do this. So even if you fell asleep, probably that's why he was able to succeed. And as you mentioned, you had the contract done by the time you woke up the next morning. So that's fantastic. This goes to show, again, what it's like once you commit to a vision, what you're able to achieve. And in fact, the Iranian community more than ever before now needs to commit to a vision of creativity in order to pull itself up and move onwards with every challenge that we face over the past few decades. Now, there's another wonderful initiative that you're involved with, which draws even closer to the vision of Persia Educational Foundation and our commitment to enrichment of the younger generation. Would you like to tell us a little bit about Inara?
Sure. Inara is a nonprofit organization that Arwa Damon, the senior global correspondent, Middle Eastern global correspondent for CNN, created. And Inara basically they only have one single mandate. They provide medical attention for children who are hurt in any war-torn situation. So whenever there is civil war, international war, and children are caught in a crossfire and are physically hurt, Inara comes in and provides medical attention, surgeries, first aid, anything that just basically helps them however way they can to get them out of that situation. And I have two boys, so instantaneously I was attracted to this cause. I'm acquaintances with S.E. Cup, who's also a CNN host and commentator. She introduced me to Inara a few months ago, and I instantly said, okay, every project that I'm going to do now, somehow, some way, I have to connect Inara to be a beneficiary of it. And we did a quick fundraiser for Inara in the context of filmmaking. So we did a monologue competition. So actors sent us the best performances that they copied from another prominent performance. And then we got judges, the judges judged them, and then we provided prizes. There was a submission fee. Sponsors from the film industry came in and sponsored demographics who couldn't afford it. So for example, we had a sponsor who remained anonymous, who paid for the submission fee for any Iranian from Iran who did not have the $15 to submit. They were covered entirely by us. So there was absolutely no excuse for anybody not to participate. If you want to be an actor, we'll pay for your fee. Submit it, you'll get judged, you'll get all this feedback from these well-known judges, and the money goes 100% to Inara. And we raised 13,500 US in over a month. And it was fantastic. And now we're doing a comedy version of it. It's a stand-up comedy, and we have some famous Iranians being judges on it as well too. And again, we have it covered. So anybody here looking at this seminar live on Facebook who thinks they're funny and they can prove it in 3 minutes or less, no excuses not to submit. If you can't afford the submission, a sponsor will cover it for you. The money goes to saving children around the world, and you're going to get to be seen by Iranian and international comedians and judges on your performance, and then create networking opportunities. And I've made a pledge that moving forward, any film that I make, any project that I do, somehow, some way will benefit Inara. And I'm trying to create and bring in other, CEOs and presidents of other medium, smaller entertainment companies to take the same pledge and become, supporters and sponsors of Inara. We as global citizens have only one sort of a mutual responsibility, which is take care of children. Like that's the least we can all agree on that we should all do. So Inara has been doing this on our behalf for many years. I think it's time for everybody to step up and contribute somehow. Innocent children should not suffer through anything, especially the horrendous injuries they sustain in these wars that are happening constantly everywhere in the world. So that's the Inara initiative, and I hope it goes forever. Whereas the EDA, I don't want it to last forever. I want that generation swap to occur, and then there's no need for EDA. Somehow, looking back at our history of 2 million plus years, I think wars are here to stay. I don't think they're going to go anywhere. So it's good to at least have some support for the innocent children suffering through them. So Inara is very dear to my heart, and please look them up, inara.org, and see for yourself how you can help. But if you're an artist and you want to get involved with me, then you're also going to be supporting Inara as well too.
Wonderful. Well, you're doing so much. It's such an inspiration to see one person making so much difference in our world today, so much difference for the better. So in fact, all the challenges that you may have gone through in your earlier years are really bearing incredible fruits, not just for yourself, but for the global community. We're very blessed in the Iranian community to have such talent such as yourself. Again, on behalf of Persia Educational Foundation, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us. We look forward to further affiliations with you in all these wonderful efforts that you're initiating and you're a part of. We will continue to post everything we can about your initiatives on our site and social media so that those who are interested in this line of activity can join you and support you. So we wish all of you who have joined us this afternoon a wonderful evening and a wonderful few weeks until we see you again at our next webinar here on Persia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.